Okay, this video is gonna go over the PS2 test, just to help you be prepared. So this is going over adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing with decimals, okay? So follow along with your paper. Best suggestion would be to try the problem on your own, then watch my video to see if you were doing it right and to check your answer. Okay, number one, select all the expressions that are greater than 5. So one way you can find out if they're greater than 5 is actually just to calculate either the sum or the difference. So for this one, we have 4.88 plus 0.009. We're adding, I put a 0 for the missing place value. Then you could add it up, and right away I see, oh, it's not greater than 5, it's less than 5. Okay, next one, 3.76 plus 1.3. And we can write 1.3 as 1.30. We add them up. And this one is slightly bigger than 5. Okay, next one, 5.012 plus 0.04. Minus. So after the 4 from the missing place value, we can put a 0. 2 minus 0 is 2. 1 minus 4 we can't do because 1 smaller than 4, so we go next door. We can't borrow from 0, but we can borrow from 5, so we're going to regroup this 5 and bring it over here. Then regroup the 10, bring it over here. So we have 11 minus 4, which is 7. 9 minus 0 is 9. Bring down the decimal, 4 minus 0 is 4. So it's not greater than 5. It's less than 5. Next one, 7.702 minus 2.71. And I can add a 0. So 2 minus 0, and a borrow. 10 minus 1, borrow, or regroup. 16 minus 7 is 9. Okay, oh, so close, but not quite. Okay, last one, 6.5 minus 1.49. Every time, if you notice, I make sure my decimals are stacked up on top of each other. Okay, I need to regroup, so I can subtract 10 minus 9, 4 minus 4, 6 minus 1. So this one's slightly bigger, so just those two. But make sure you show your work so I know that you're not just circling the answers, but you understand how to get the answer. Next one, the mass of one coin is 16.718 grams. The mass of a second coin is 27.22 grams. What is the combined mass? Anytime it says what is the combined, then we're going to be adding, okay? So we need to add the two numbers, and then we'll get the combined mass. So we're finding the sum. I like to start with the bigger number, but either one will work. So we have 27.22 plus 16.718. My decimals are stacked up on top of each other. I add a 0 for the missing place value, and then I add starting on the right side. Okay, here 6 plus 7 is 13, so I put the ones place and then the tens place. 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4. So my combined mass is this many grams. You can label it. So that was just practicing some addition or finding the sum of two values. Okay, next one, number 3. Find the following differences. Remember, differences is subtraction. So the answer to a subtraction problem. 0.151. So the first number always goes on top, minus the second number. Okay, so 1 minus 8, I need to regroup the 5 so I can get an 11. 11 minus 8 is 3, 4 minus 2 is 2, 1 minus 0 is 1. Bring down the decimal, 0 minus 0. So here is the difference. That's what this problem equals. Okay, next one, 3.572, so 3.572 minus 2.6014. Add a 0. Starting on the right side, 0 minus 4, I need to go to the 2 to regroup. 10 minus 4 is 6, 1 minus 1 is 0, 7 minus 0 is 0, 5 minus 6 I can't do, so I need to regroup. 15 minus 6 is 9, bring down the decimal. 2 minus 2 is 0. So here is the sum of the second one. Okay? Next one, a runner is preparing for a marathon that is cut into 5 equal sections. So there's 5 sections to it. The marathon is 42.195 kilometers long. How long is each section? So usually when it's saying how much is each section, that means we're going to be dividing. Or anytime it says cut, that means we're going to be dividing. So we're dividing by 5 because we're splitting it into 5 pieces. So we take the full number, 42.195, and we're dividing it into 5 pieces to find out how long one piece is. Okay? So 5 doesn't go into 4. 5 goes into 42 8 times, because 8 times 5 is 40. 42 minus 40 is 2. I bring up the decimal point, and I bring down the 1. 5 goes into 21 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. Subtract and we get 1. Bring down the next digit. 5 goes into 19. Oops, I didn't write this over quick enough. 5 goes into 19 3 times, because 3 times 5 is 15. And when I subtract, I get a 4. So then I bring down my last digit, 5. 5 goes into 45 9 times. 9 times 5 is 45. When I subtract, now I get 0. Okay? So my full answer, each section of the race should be 8.439 kilometers. So KM. So that's your answer. And you can always check your work to make sure you didn't mess up on the test. Okay, moving on. Find the quotient. So the quotient is the answer to a division problem. So we have 780. So our dividend divided by our divisor. So you have 780 divided by 24. Okay? So one thing you can do is just count by 24s so you can make sure you know to help you get there. So you might want to like guess and check. So I know 24 times 3 is probably close because I know 25 times 3 is 75. So 24 times 3 is 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7, so that's going to be the closest I can get. So I know 24 doesn't go into 7, but 24 does go into 78, and I'm going to say 3 times, because I know 3 times 24 is 72, because I just did it. Okay, and then 8 minus 2 is 6, bring down the 0. Okay, so I need to count by 24s. So I know 3 would be too much, so it must be 2. So I know 24 times 2 is 48. So I'm going to put 2 here. And 2 goes into 2 times 24 is 48. So then I can subtract. 10 minus 8 is 2. 5 minus 4 is 1. Okay. So at this point, I have a remainder. So I know my answer is 32. Point something or 32 in a fraction. So my remainder would be 32 if I wrote it as a fraction, and 12, and this is my remainder, and I'm dividing it by 24. So 12 24ths. So that could help me get to the decimal, or I can just continue on. So I'm going to add a 0.0 because 780 is the same as 780.0. So I bring up the decimal, so I know it's 32 point something. Bring down the 0. Okay. And I know 24 goes into 125 times. 5 times 24 is 120. So you get 0. So you write your answer as 32.5. That's your quotient. You could also write it as 32 and 12/24, which is the same as 32 and 1/2, which makes sense because 1/2 as a decimal is 0.5. Okay, number 6. Over here. Han's backpack weighs 8.3 pounds, Priya's weighs 7.75 pounds, and Kieran's weighs 6.125 pounds. What is the combined weight? So combined means addition, right? So we're just going to add them up. So we're just going to line them up. I'm going to start with the one with the most numbers. Actually, I'm going to do it with red. So 6.125. In addition, it doesn't really matter what order you do it. but just make sure your decimals are stacked up on top of each other. So, and I'm gonna just add them all up at once. You can add 2 together and then add the third after, but I like to just do it all at once. For the missing place values, you can just put zeros, because it doesn't change the value. And then I'm gonna start on the right side. So 5 plus nothing is 5. 2 plus 5 is 7. 7 plus 3 is 10, plus 1 is 11. Bring down my decimal. Okay, so here we'll just make sure we don't mess up. So we have 1 plus 6 is 7, 7 plus 7 is 14, and 14 plus 8 is 22. Okay, and if it takes you a little bit more time to get to that point, that's totally okay. Just make sure you know how to do it on your own. Okay, and this is a 5. Make sure. Okay, last one. Kieran's backpack weighs how much less than Hans? So we have Kieran and Hans. So I'm gonna go up. Hans weighs 8.3 and Kieran's weighs 6.125. So we need to see how much less. How much less means subtraction. We're comparing the difference, okay? So I take the bigger number, which is 8.3, and I subtract the smaller number, which is 6.125. Okay? And then I add zeros for the missing place values. So I start on the right side, 0 minus 5, I can't do, so I need to go next door. I can't borrow, so I go next door. So I can regroup this 3, so this is 2, and now this becomes a 10. I need to regroup that 10, so now this becomes a 10. So now I can subtract. 10 minus 5 is 5, 9 minus 2 is 7, 2 minus 1 is 1, bring down the decimal, 8 minus 6 is 2. So I'm gonna say 2.17 pounds less. Okay, so he maybe doesn't have as many books in his backpack or something. Cool beans. Moving on to number 7. So Micah and her sister made $263 babysitting. If they split the money, how much will each girl receive? So anytime it says split, that almost always is going to mean division. Split, we're dividing. So you have to think, okay, we're taking the money and we're splitting it. So we're taking $263 and we're splitting it between the sisters. And in this case, it's Micah and her sister. So that's two people. So 263 divided by 2. So this won't be too bad. So divided by 2. Our dividend divided by our divisor. The number we're dividing by always goes on that side. 2 goes into 2 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 minus 6 is 0. Bring down the 3. 2 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. So at this point, I know I have 131 with a remainder of 1, which I'm dividing by 2. So 1/2. If I know what that is as a decimal, I can just do it right then. But just to practice, continuing on, we do a 0.0, and we can bring down that 0 and then bring up the decimal, because we know it's 131 point something. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. Now I have 0 left over, so no remainder, so 131.5. And for money, so how much will each girl receive? We can write it in money terms as 131.50, so $130.50. Please don't write money with a fraction. So I would, even though this might help you get here, just make sure you write it as a decimal when it's money. And there's 2 numbers after the decimal. So 50 cents. If you get 0.5, then it's 50. Okay? Alrighty. Number 8. 1 ounce of yogurt. So 1 ounce of yogurt contains 1.2 grams of sugar. How many grams of sugar are in 14.25 ounces of yogurt? So if I know 1 ounce equals 1.2 grams of sugar, then if I'm going to 14.25 ounces, it's gonna, I know 1 times 14.25 is 14.25. So that means I'm going to just multiply the grams of sugar by 14.25 to help me get to the other part of the ratio. Okay? So I'm doing 14.25, the number of ounces, times 1.2. Okay? When I multiply with decimals, the first step is to count how many numbers are after the decimal points in both numbers. So in this case, we have 1, 2, 3 numbers after the decimal point. We make a note of it, and then we can just treat them like whole numbers. So I have 1,425 really times 12, and you just line up the last numbers, okay? You don't line up the decimal points when you're multiplying. So I'm going to multiply 2 by all the numbers, and then I'll multiply 1 by all the numbers. So 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 1 is 2. Okay? So when I multiply by 1, all the numbers, it's really like I'm multiplying by 10. So I add 1, 0, because there's one digit after. So 1 times 5. 1 times 2. 1 times 4. And 1 times 1. And then I can add her up. So I add them up. Okay. And then the last step is to place my decimal back. So there's 3 numbers after the decimal point. So I start on the right side and I move it 1, 2, 3, place. So I have 17.100, which I would just write as 17.1. How many grams of sugar? So grams of sugar. That would be my answer. So lots of sugar, you gotta watch it. Okay, last couple. We're gonna go to dividing, multiplying and then dividing. Okay, so starting, it says find each product. Remember, product is the answer to a multiplication question. So again, we count how many numbers are after our decimal points. So we have 1, 2, 3, make a note of it, and then we can delete the decimals and just multiply them like whole numbers. So we have 72 times 031, which is just 31. So 1 times 2, 1 times 7, then I add a 0 for the missing place value here. 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 7 is 21, and then I add them up. 2 plus 0, 7 plus 6, 1 plus 1, and 2 plus nothing. Okay, last thing, I place my decimal back 3 spaces. So starting on the right side, 1, 2, 3. So my final answer would be 2.232. Okay, this one, there are 1, 2, 3 numbers after the decimal point again. So then we can ignore the decimals and place it back after. So really, it's like I have 128 times 006, which is just 6. And then I multiply. 6 times 8 is 48. 6 times 2 is 12. Plus 4 is 16. 6 times 1 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. Okay, I need to place the decimal 3 spots. So starting on the right, I move it 1, 2, 3. Place it. So it's 0.768, which is the same as 0.768. Okay, going on to division. It's saying find each quotient. Remember, quotient is the answer to a division problem. So I have the dividend divided by the divisor. So the number you're dividing by the divisor always goes on the outside. So we see how many times does 8 go into 3? No times. 8 goes into 33 4 times, because 4 times 8 is 32. I subtract and I get 1, bring down the 2. 8 goes into 12 1 time, 1 times 8. 12 minus 8 is 4, bring down the 8. 8 goes into 48 6 times, 6 times 8 is 48. Ooh, it goes in nice and evenly, so I don't even have a remainder or a decimal, so that's great. So my quotient for that division problem, or what it equals, is that number. Okie dokie, last one. We have, or at least for this part, 868 divided by 14. Okay, so one good thing to do is just to write down, count by that number on the side, especially if you don't have it on your multiplication chart. So we have 14 plus 28. So 28 plus 4 would be 32, plus 10 is 42. Okay, plus 14 is 56, plus 14 is 70, plus 14 is 84. And I'm going to stop there. So this is 1 times by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hopefully we don't have to go more. Okay, so 14 doesn't go into 8, but 14 goes into 86. Ooh, look at 6 times, and 6 times 14 is 84. Okay, I'm going to subtract and I get 2. Then I bring down the 8. 14 goes into 28. Ooh, 2 times. 2 times 14 is 28. Subtract and I get 0. So 62 is my quotient or my answer. Okay, make sure you really can practice these and do these on your own without the video help, but the video can help you get there. Okay, so there's other review tasks you can do. Make sure you do Jeopardy review slides, Khan Academy practice test, and all the things to help you be perfectly ready for the test. Thanks for watching the video.